Welcome to Behind the Badge. We have a new segment for you today with a good friend of mine who's called Dr. Charla Waxman from Linden Oaks. We worked together for years and years with the Yorkville High School, Yorkville Middle School, with anger management. I had a lot of problems, a lot of issues there, and she's helped me through them. Right, Charla?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wasn't strictly for me or for you, it was for the kids, right?
It was all for the kids.
Yeah, and we used to work with the kids on basis. How would we get those kids? I mean, they just come over and punch us, or?
Well, as I remember, they were multiply referred. Kids came to us and into our group, sometimes as a referral from a panicked parent, sometimes from a counselor or social worker, the principal of the school. But I think the neatest referrals that we got, and the referrals I appreciated most, and the referrals that let me know that we were doing what we needed to do, was when kids referred their friends.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And these guys, they really did need it. I mean, and there's still kids out there that need these things and need some help. They're just having some issues with, what do you think the biggest, why or how does this come about? Is it just coming of age? Is it hormones raging? Is it all the above?
You know, I think the kinds of kids that you and I worked with over the years, it was just such a, so many kinds of issues that they had.
Abuse.
Kids from abusive backgrounds, kids with chemical dependency in their backgrounds, kids who were deficient in their grades, the kids who had diagnosable mental illnesses or academic deficiencies.
Self-esteem issues?
All kinds of issues, yeah.
I mean, and where we have kids, you know, where we had tragedies in schools before, this is what we were trying to work with these kids before they were hurting so bad where a tragedy like that would come through.
Sure, their coping strategies were pretty limited.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And several years we did this for, and it all began with a grant. We met you, do you remember what year that was? 1990,
I think.
Wow, 1990. Yeah. We had a grant that we had at the time, and we came to your facility and talked about how can we help these kids. And that's when our liaison position at the high school resource officer position was opened up pretty good, and our partnerships were pretty tight. And they still are, but it's just the monies are tighter.
Sure, absolutely.
Right now with it. So when we were doing these classes or these sessions, it would we would take these out of study hall maybe, or take them out of a lunch?
We had some lunch bunch groups where the kids came out of lunch and even brought their lunches down with them. We took some kids right out of their classes because just having that break during the day and knowing that they could take one moment away from academics sometimes was enough to kind of calm them down and just let them feel more relaxed in their day. And we took some kids out of study hall. And I think there was a time where I was coming in the morning, and there was also a time where I was coming in after school just to meet with kids who were struggling with anger management issues.
And basically what we would do is we would meet together. We would have our group of kids. The liaison officer would be there, and you would be there and stuff. And you'd have the activities, some activities they would do. Some of the stuff I just love. I learned so much about you when we were doing that with coloring activities. It sounds really elementary, but there was so much you can learn by doing that, by what colors they choose, by how you had a picture they would color. It was a picture of a boxing glove, wasn't it? It was.
It was a logo actually designed by a gang member that I worked with who I kind of used it as my memorial to him. He was killed because of his gang involvement, and I hung on to that picture all those years from the early 80s and used that as the logo for my program, Fair Fighting. And
you would just give them as many crayons, no certain colors or anything, just all the colors, and they would just choose what they wanted out of there and how they colored it, if they outlined it, if they shaded it, if they colored hard, whatever. I mean, everything meant something to you because you've been trained in how to read this to the kids. Yeah. And I think the kids were fascinated because when they would do it, it says, well, that's an interesting color you used, you know, black and blue, you know, or orange and yellow, or whatever colors they were, and you would be able to read a little bit and tell them about themselves, and you'd be right on the money, and it would freak them out, and then they would talk. Right. You know, it would bring it out. So it's sort of a elementary thing to do, but it really brought them out to talk more.
Sure. I mean, we forget that kids, they need to play, they need to color, I know you remember how many times we brought in Legos and card games, and we used those to spark discussion.
Right.
You know, every activity had a design to it.
Right.
Every activity was supposed to get the kids to a point where they would spend some time talking about themselves, and in the same realm, learn how to play again.
Right.
Find ways to cope. Absolutely.
Play nicely together. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there was sometimes where it would just sort of catch me off guard, because I would just sort of ride your coattails a little bit there, and just you'd do the lead, and I just sort of follow with it. And sometimes you would just go, "Okay, that's it. You're done. Go. Here's your pass. You're gone. You're out of here." Because they were mouthing off, they were doing something, and you just knew at that point, that's it. There's no more. We're going to help him, and we're also drawing a line in the sand so he knows he can't, or she knows they can't go any further. And that was a wake-up call, and I was just going, "Whoa, what happened?" You know. And then you'd explain to me afterwards why you did that, what was going on.
Sure, but it was always, you know, there's this unconditional piece to that. The kid could always clean slate himself, come back the next week,
Right.
and give it another shot. But you had to draw the line. You had to let him know that there was a respect line that was drawn, both as a member of the group, for the other group members, and with us.
Right.
So there were lots of times where we had to say, you know, we got to commit you out of the group today because you can't work.
And it was a sort of a shocker to them, and a wake-up call, and they, because they did like it, but they always put these personas, they always put these fronts on.
They had to.
That they, you know, it was all the different things, but it was...
But did they ever not want to come back? They always came back.
They always want to come back and have some fun with it. I remember also a lot of things that you did, which surprised me also, out of your own pocket, out of your own time, energy, because you're so busy, I can't believe how busy you are. You would come to their basketball game. You would come to their play. You would come to their something that they had that was important to them, and be there for them, where sometimes a parent had never been there.
Right.
You know, and so you could see what was important to them and help them out that way, and show them afterwards, hey, we're here for you afterwards too.
Right. It makes a difference, and I think the kids really get hooked into us and hooked into the group, and it had real meaning for us to be there for them. I mean, you did the same thing.
Right.
I remember you picking up a birthday cake, and
Yeah.
you're planning a little party for a kid who then said he had never had a birthday cake and never had a party, and here this kid's 16 years old, you know.
Yeah, it does touch your heartstrings with this, and I learned so much with those classes. And I said in the beginning where I got the anger management, it really, I learned so much about people and how to work with them through you. You know, through that class. So we did that probably for what, 8, 10 years?
Easy.
Yeah,
Easy.
Something like that with the different ones. Grade levels might surprise the public here a little bit with the grade levels. We went down to, what was it, first grade, second grade?
Sure. I mean, the program just kept growing. And we started out with middle school, and then ended up at the high school, and then we took over some elementary kids.
Right,
and,
and we have so many different schools in Yorkville now. It was like we were at 4 or 5 different schools.
We were traveling from school to school, and we had one classroom period at each school, so we had lots of drive time that we had to get places.
Right, and shoving down food or something before you get there, or going from here. And I mean, I remember some of the kids, they'd bring in treats or something, you know, and as teachers will understand this, and you know, you get these treats, and you're just going, where did this come from? And you just, good. You don't know where it came from or whatever, but you have to show trust and still partake.
Right.
You know, so it was
because that was important to them, and they had brought that for us.
And we never got sick once, I know.
Nope. Thought about it a lot, though.
We have a lot more to talk about, all the other different things you're involved in. Some of your background also, very interesting with gang activity, and that you got out of the gangs, good. And no, I'm just kidding about that. Well, we'll talk more about that interesting issue when we come back from Behind the Badge.
Hi, how are you doing today?
What looks good?
Our special today is shrimp scampi. It's been sitting around for about a week.
Excuse me, what time are you guys leaving? We're gonna rob your house tonight.
Don't you wish there were warnings to protect you from life's risks? With diabetes, there is one. It's called A1C, a simple blood test that helps measure your risk of serious complications. Learn more at diabetesaonc.org.
Listen, I know you're upset, but it was just one date. And dating's like the stock market. There's ups and downs and ups. So always buy low.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Welcome back to Behind the Badge. We now are going to dig deep into the background of Dr. Charla Waxman. Pretty scary. And I know some of the tidbits. You did some crazy stuff, girl.
I have.
You did some crazy stuff. All in the line of therapy, helping people, just helping the masses. I mean, what I'm thinking about strictly is Chicago. What did you do in Chicago?
I did some gang work, some street gang work.
Some? How about a year or something, or a couple of years?
Many years, actually, many years. And still continue to work with kids who are gang involved.
You were at Green when it was up and running?
I did. I did some, they called it Teens and Tots program. So it was kids who had kids.
So you had an office at Cabrini Green?
I had a group room, so I would go in and do a group.
Okay. And you'd get out there, what were your hours?
Whatever they would give me.
You'd sometimes be out there at 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Sometimes I'd be out there at night, right?
Yeah, pretty crazy. That's us trying to get out of you.
Visiting my guys.
But there's a respect there, where they won't mess with you because you're respected. Is that the way you saw it?
I was a program person, and they knew I was there to help. And you know, I was just somebody out there that wanted to be able to talk to you and see how you were doing and check in with you. And if you needed, you know, clothes, or if you needed food, or you know,
you were there
whatever you needed, we would look.
When did that happen? When did that start?
You know, I really started in Northwest Indiana in the early '80s at a street program where we worked with kids, and some of the work that I did in Chicago kind of filtered off of that.
And that was your true calling, your true love. We were talking earlier about, you know, as a patrolman, that was my true love. You know, you went to all kinds of different things, but going back to patrol was always cool. Almost with you, with the therapy part of this, going back to your gangs.
Anger management, gang work.
Yeah, that's your true love. In fact, your doctorate is based on that, isn't it?
My doctorate's in education, and my dissertation was an interview study with a gang member couple who, you know, I spent about a year and a half in and out of their home trying to find out what happened to school, why could school not work for you, why did the system fail?
Right. Picking their brains, trying to find out what exactly happened with this little system here, and how can we make it where that won't happen again.
Right, right.
And in fact, you got a book on it.
I did. I got very, very lucky, and a publishing company picked it up. And it is available at Barnes & Noble and, you know, Amazon.com. So it was something, it was just an awesome opportunity. And it's always nice to, it's a very boring title, Barry. It's an interview study with Latin King gang members. And it's being sold as a textbook, so it's quite expensive. I don't encourage you to buy it.
Yeah.
But,
go to the library.
You know, I just got really lucky to have that opportunity and, you know, not have to pick it apart and turn it into articles.
Right.
And
you know, I remember, because we were working together when you were working towards your doctorate, working towards, I think even towards your master's. I mean, you were constantly on the working end of it, getting all your schooling done. And
perpetual student.
Never ending. And it was funny because when you get your dissertation and you have somebody helping you do that, your person that helped you get it together, because they'd always rip it apart and you redo it and do all that. Right. But it was funny, something you said, yeah, it's in the, where do they put all the dissertations? In some library or something?
It's kind of like, it's a UMI, it's kind of like the black hole for dissertations.
And you said you put a $20 bill in there and hide it in there, and then you go look a little later and see if anybody looked in there to see, see if anybody read it or not. But it turned out to be a lot better than you thought.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about having it published.
Yeah, that was
it kind of put closure on the whole thing.
Yeah. You still deal with gang members.
I still do.
To this day, through anger management.
I do.
In Yorkville schools. Now, there can't be any gangs in Yorkville, right? That's such a joke when people think gangs aren't affiliated in everything.
Right.
You know, and really, they're everywhere. They are in Yorkville, they're in Oswego, they're in Plano, they're everywhere. It's just not a Chicago thing or a Aurora thing.
Right.
We worked with a lot of kids who were gang members or want to be gang members. In fact, maybe second, third generational gang members. And I'm thinking of one specific boy that we worked with who came to Yorkville. And when we were talking earlier that you connect with these guys, something that you do with them, you say to them, and all of a sudden, wow, there's a bond. Now, they know you know what's going on, and you can help. Right. And this was the way with this boy for me, where he got in trouble. And as a police officer, I had to deal with it. He had a BB gun and he shot somebody or something. You know, it wasn't as crazy because he was very young then. But I was able to interview him and go dead on exactly what happened. And he said, oh my gosh, you're like reading my mind. And what his mom felt and how she was treating her, learned from you through the different sessions, and we connected totally with that thing as a police officer to a person in need. And that was really a good feeling. Did we totally help him? I don't know. He never wanted to leave. He wanted to stay in, but we gave him another outlet. You know, and hopefully when he was older, he could see that and take it when he gets older and more mature. Do you think it's a maturity thing, or do you think it's a...
You know, I guess it's the thing the thing about prevention, I guess, is people say, does prevention really work? You know, because you can't measure exactly when it'll kick in, right. You know, or when that kid will remember the things that you said. And you plant seeds, and you give the kids, like we did in our anger management classes, just that moment to play, to dialogue, to talk, to be themselves, and to feel good about how other people felt about them. And like you said, did he leave the gang as you would hope he would? Maybe not in that moment, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road, will it finally draw on him? Will the light finally go on?
Right.
That's what you're hoping for.
Absolute natural leader, this guy was. He would be awesome in the military. He would be just great in a lot of different things. But I think after looking deep into his background, what was going on, it was mom, dad was gone. You know, there was a lot of issues on his own. Mom was stifling. I think, unfortunately, I don't think mom liked him. I mean, that's what we found out. His mother didn't like him. You know, the cruel end of it. But, you know, and I think that when he found out that we understood that, it was a helping type thing. But that was just one. I mean, there was hundreds of kids that we went through. You know, in fact, we had one of our kids through anger management, a great success story. We think, because he zeroed his energy into one thing. He's an ultimate fighter now. We went and watched him fight.
We did.
And he was able to really zone his power in to one specific thing. And he was good.
He was very good. He was very good. And I think what's neat about it is having this kid as a middle schooler in 6th grade, and 10 years later, you know, we're still connected to him in a way that, you know, we got together. And
went to his fight.
He went to his fight and saw him there. He knew we were there. And
I don't know about he had his nose broken. He was rubbing the blood all over his face. That was a little bit weird. But, you know, I think it's
part of the game, part of the show.
Part of a show when it goes on, and sort of goes from there and happens. But that was a neat thing. I mean, he's in his mid-20s now, you know. Did he fall? Did he screw up? Did he have some problems with law? Yeah. But, I mean, the seeds were planted, and I think each time he'd get back up, he'd learned a little bit more. And if you can learn from your mistakes, the mistake wasn't all wrong, all bad then, I think is what we found. Anyone that you remember specifically?
Oh my gosh, I just remember having so much fun with those kids. And I again, the thing that pleased me the most is when they would come dragging a friend with them and say, this guy needs anger management.
Right.
You know, and I remember so many of the activities and the collages that we would do, and playing Uno with kids who had never played a card game, and then using the game as a way to talk to the kids about their anger, and how surprised they were that, you know, suddenly they were like, well, did I just tell you that?
Yeah.
You know, it was really awesome.
Really neat stuff. Well, I tell you what, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about mental health first aid. What the heck is mental health first aid? Well, we're going to find out when we come back from Behind the Badge.
It's a great day, isn't it?
Yeah. Too bad your boat's going to sink at 11:05.
Don't come closer. I have rabies. Don't you wish there were warnings to protect you from life's risks? With diabetes, there is one. It's called A1C, a simple blood test that helps measure your risk of serious complications. Learn more at diabetesaonc.org.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
Welcome back to Behind the Badge. We are just getting into something new here, and it's something pretty interesting we want to talk about. It's called mental health first aid. And that is what our next segment we're going to talk about.
Great.
What is mental health first aid? You can think a lot of things conjure up in your head, you know, like a Band-Aid on the brain or something, or what
Sure.
what fits?
As you know, I let go some of my private practice, and I'm director of marketing and business development at Linden, Oaks and Edward, which is a small behavioral health hospital in Naperville, Illinois, and we have embarked on an initiative called Mental Health First Aid. Mental Health First Aid came out of Australia in 2001 and came to the United States and is really kind of sweeping the nation now. And we have become a hospital trained to provide mental health first aid training.
Right.
So we're seeking sponsors who would be interested in putting together trainings, and we'll come in and train people about...
is this like a CPR thing, or...?
Actually, the goal of
I mean, that kind of a
you know,
mold?
you're absolutely right. Mental health first aid is designed to make responding to a mental health concern or crisis as common as CPR would be to a cardiac emergency.
Right.
So instead of the situation that we just had in Arizona where people said, oh, that guy was weird, or we knew something was wrong with him, or we know, you know, he was acting strange, somebody would be more able to respond to him and say, not that guy's acting weird or that guy's acting strange, but that guy has a mental health issue that I think I can help him with, or I know who to call, or I know how to speak to him about what's going on.
So this is going out to the industry then, out a grassroots effort to work with fellow workers, work with people who are in charge, work with everybody, not
your next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Somebody on the street.
And to be able to identify that the things that this person is doing is not right, something's wrong and he needs some help, and how to get him that help.
It's designed to teach you to assess, kind of a thumbnail sketch. It's not a therapeutic program.
And not for you to approach the person or whatever, just to, or is it to approach them?
Or I might.
Okay.
Not with the goal, obviously, of being intrusive, or certainly not to endanger myself.
Right. Or to drag a couch around with you and say, sit down, we got to talk.
Right, sure. But to, you know, say to a coworker, I'm noticing some things, and I'd really like to help you with that. Or in a mental health crisis, to kind of hold it down until the proper help arrives, just like you would in a cardiac emergency with CPR.
Right, to hold them in place until you can get the true help there.
Right.
We were talking about the schools earlier. We've seen kids who, in fact, all the tragedies that we've seen in the schools, people have always said, yeah, he was off, something was wrong, something was going on, but nobody really took the next step.
The initiative.
Yeah, the initiative to help them out.
And the goal of this program is to to help people be so informed about mental health, the crises, the concerns, that we decrease stigma, increase response, increase information.
Good point.
And give people a chance to react rather than just talk about the aftermath of a crisis or a tragedy. This program does train adolescents. We train kids 16 and up, just like you would for a teen, for a babysitter who needs to learn CPR. We train kids because who's going to know better than their peers that something needs to happen.
And then they can be taken maybe a little more serious, that they did have some training in this, that they know a little bit what they're talking about, and they see some highlights here. And instead of having one person, I'm thinking at the school, like the counselor, one person who understands this stuff is supposed to be looking over 600 people, you know, to try to figure out what's going on. You would have the grassroots where, like, in the schools, all the teachers could be trained in this.
I would love to train teachers everywhere with mental health first aid to increase their comfort level, to help them understand what they're looking at.
That's a good point there, too.
Absolutely.
Because most of the people will step away from it when they see something, because just stay away from it, man. I don't want no part of it, you know. And how can we help that way? You know, it's like
you can't.
We need to get involved with this to work as a team to help these people out.
Right.
And it could, you know, we say this stigma where it's that one weirdo or something inside. Hey, this weirdo could be your brother, could be your father, could be your sister, a family member, a friend, a good friend, you know, and to know how to deal with it.
And those weird behaviors have manifested themselves because of a mental illness. So instead of just seeing them as an outcast or somebody you don't want to, you know, be with, it suddenly becomes somebody that you know you can interact with and you know you can reach out to and you know there's help available.
What do you think the biggest thing will happen from this, getting this out? Like if you go into a factory and there's 300 workers in there and you're able to train 200 of them or something, you know, because you're able to get this training done, do you think a big part of this puzzle of helping would be compassion?
It increases compassion, it decreases isolation, and increases, I think, you know, productivity, because now there's hope out there. Maybe that person even knew that something was wrong with them, couldn't put their finger on it, saw how people were reacting to them, and that had an impact on them. And now for the first time, they have people not just shying away, but reaching out to them and offering support. Now you have a real worker in the workplace who believes that, you know, there are tons of other people reaching out to them and helping them, so they have a shot at it.
And this is strictly, there's no boundaries, I should say. There's strictly no boundaries for this. This can go to clergy, it can go through any business, it can go to insurance agency, it can go to whoever, because these tragedies happen everywhere.
Everywhere, all the time.
Yeah, it just
at all age ranges, you know, and that's really the goal of this. In fact, you know, when we took the training, you know, we originally thought this is, we put a lot of money into getting the 4 of us trained, you know, 4 of us at our hospital trained to do this. And initially it was, well, you know, we'll charge a certain amount and make sure we, you know, somehow make that money back. And after we took the course, we're like, oh, this is so much bigger and so much more important. So what we decided to do is not create a cost for our community. We're only going to charge for the books, which is, you know, it's $25 for the books, and that's all we're going to charge, because really what's important is this is a grassroots effort to get the word out about mental illness and mental health, to create investment in reaching out and to letting everybody know you can have a part in decreasing stigma and you can have a part in increasing awareness. So,
how important are the books? I mean, is it something you can go back then to for reference?
What it does is it takes a capsule look at depression, anxiety, psychosis, chemical dependency, eating disorders, and self-injury.
So it's something you would review again, maybe, and just...
The books are absolutely awesome, because every book talks about, here's how you talk to a person with this issue, here are the symptoms that they might exhibit, and here are some resources, some national resources you can utilize. And of course, then when we go into an individual community, and we'll be doing this across many counties, and nationally as well, when you get to a community and you do this, then we'll also be helping them locate their own resources. But it's such a great book, and such a book that you can refer to again and again.
So this is up and running right now.
It is.
And they can go to Linden Oaks, talk to you. Dr. Waxman can hook you up to work this out, and no stigma with this, no issues. It's to help people in general. If you call up and, you know, your business saying, well, they must have a lot of weird people there. No, you're there to help. You're proactive. You're proactive for this. You're not the, and I'll bet insurance companies would like this too.
I can't think of anybody who wouldn't. To be able to receive a certification as a mental health, first aid, first responder.
Right. Awesome. Very interesting stuff. Charla, thank you so much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it. Maybe we can do some reviews on that and see what happens, and another show on it, and go from there. But thank you very much for coming to Behind the Badge and checking this out, and seeing our new speakers coming through, and we'll have a lot more episodes coming up in the future, so I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for being with us for Behind the Badge.